Living by the water has had a huge influence on my work. And I realize it's not something I just want to paint. It's something I'm trying to understand. Not what it looks like, but what it feels like, what it holds, its energy, its memory. That has led me down an unexpected path. Instead of asking, what should I create today? I've been asking, what does this thread want to teach me next?
Hi, I'm Michelle, and if you're new here, on this channel is where I share intuitive mixed media techniques while guiding, helping others discover their true art, one soulful layer at a time. Today, we are creating cohesive collage papers. These are collage papers that naturally go together. And these ones are my quiet, I call them support papers. And they're fantastic for all of your art. I started a series of collage papers. They were okay, but they just didn't have that feeling. So today I'm going to be demonstrating how I use or create cohesive collage papers very simply using a limited palette to create beautiful muted tones. So I'll be showing you how I use a limited palette. And I'm using something a bit different today because once I put my palette out on a wet palette, I want to keep it there for a few days so I can just come back to it. So if this resonates with you and you're wanting to follow your own thread, come and join me. You can watch, you can create along with me, and when you're creating collage papers, it is the best, easiest way to explore all of those muted tones. So let's get started.
So before I reach for paint, I like to select specific papers, and I like to keep them very simple. So I encourage you just to use what you have on hand. This is cartridge paper that fades, and I love that. It gets towards that sort of vintage feel, and they're very large sheets, so I cut them up in 4. It's a little thicker than newsprint, which is next, just newsprint sheets. I want to see and use older ones that I've used as placemats, and just when I'm covering them with the paint, we'll just see what happens. Copy paper, printing paper, very, very simple. If you happen to have some or are collecting some old books for old book pages, this one I don't have and I cannot access, or I haven't purchased ledger paper, but I love some of these pages in old books. They sort of emulate ledger paper. So I'm going to paint, my plan is to paint thinner layers so some of the text shows through. So this is another resource or an encyclopedia. More encyclopedia pages, and I love how they turn old and they're vintage. And this is a very thin encyclopedia paper. It's a little delicate, but we'll see what happens. And then if you have some old papers with marks on them, this is charcoal, and I'm going to see what happens when I paint over those. This has already been painted on, so I'm just going to add a very thin layer and see what happens with that. So if you're wanting to have more variety of papers, they're very easy, of course, garage sales. Old books that people are throwing away, and you just tear them out and use them. So I encourage you to collect various papers that interest you. So don't worry about finding the perfect ones. Variety and gives and value and texture really makes makes the work more interesting and you get more possibilities. I have my placemat, which you can see, and I also, when it becomes marked enough, I use these, which are larger newspaper sheets, as my collage, because you just can't plan that kind of thing. Now, as I said, I'm using a different palette. Before I get to the palette, though, I'd like to show you my paint selection for today. I'm trying to go even simpler. Instead of red, I'm going to use cadmium orange hue. I went up to a lighter value, but more opacity, Naples yellow hue. One of my favorite blues, turquoise. Unbleached titanium, possibly cerulean blue hue, and of course with black and white. I'm going to use large brushes, and we're just going to be using direct painting today. I will be showing how I create my transparent or translucent papers in the next video coming up. So make sure you stay tuned for that. For these, I like some of the brush strokes mixed on. So I like to use a craft brush for that and a smoother flat brush. This is my Masterson's wet palette. It's sort of like a chamois cloth that stays damp. It's not dripping water on the sides. It came with its own sheets, but this time I want to experiment using parchment paper. Wax paper isn't the best because you want some of that moisture coming through to help your paint stay moist. So this is the cartridge paper, and what I've done is I decided to cut all the 8x10 in half so they're much quicker to cover, and then I'll have more of a variety. This is just water spray, just so the paint will go on. And notice I'm mixing on the paper. You can also mix in the palette or whatever palette it is you're using. So since I have room, I'll do that. This is a very nice dark. And I like this size much better. So this is the cerulean, and I'm using a Mars black. It's a cooler black than the ivory or the bone black. And this is just a great way to just, if you can't do anything else during this, or in your studio, or during your workflow, just making some intentional, cohesive papers is a great way. And then what you'll have at the end will go together so much better. Sometimes, actually a lot of times, I like to do this. This is my Asemic writing. I won't put it on all, but look at how the marks. So now you have your own unique mark on your support papers. And sometimes you just want them plain, solid, but I love this effect. This is the warm and the cool blue together, the turquoise and the cerulean. I love this combination. I would consider this a medium value. But if you stay to the end, I'll show you, and I won't keep showing this painting process. I'll speed it up and show you the stash that you get at the end. This is where I also like to just respond with pencil, charcoal, China marker, any drawing tools that you have. You go off the page, on, and then I'll come in with some color. Water-soluble graphite I might try, and then put a layer of paint on. So I might leave this one really loose because the marks are, I'm responding to those marks. And I like that it's more watery. These are quiet, but there's a little negative space as well. So here's some encyclopedia page, old book pages. And I'm just going to keep on going with this turquoise. I'm going to spray it as well. I don't know how sturdy it is yet, but this is what we're doing. Oh, I love it. Notice there is a finish on the page compared to the copy paper, the newsprint paper, and the cartridge paper, which I love because you can still see what's on the page. Now, say if I wanted to just lighten it up or add a little opacity, you can. There we go. So this is charcoal. I don't know what it's going to do if I put it first, but what I know is I'm activating this page with my energy, my unique mark or marks. So I'm thinking I want to use white with that. So maybe we could see some with this turquoise. And you see how it gets muddied up, which is very cool. Now, if you don't want that, you could put a medium over the top of your charcoal. But I like what charcoal does. It has that grungy loose. And right there, I'm going to stop there because you can see some marks underneath. And these collage papers really feel like you. So this one's a very smoky layer. I really like this. We'll bring in some black. Very gray, mysterious. And I want to leave the charcoal showing. So that was my Scratchy brush, mostly black with a little blue, and adding those marks, energetic marks. I'm noticing that I'm not really using the orange or the yellow, so I'm gravitating towards the blue, which makes sense to me because to me, water, that's that's how I interpret it. You need some other colors, but to me, not too many. And see, the brush strokes are a lot different. The paint is thicker here, so there's a lot more texture. This is the encyclopedia paper, the very thin stuff. So I don't know. It's going on quite smoothly. Quite translucent, which I love the variety. Oh, so it's pretty delicate. So it can take some and it'll dry stronger. This page, I've put a coating of medium on it to strengthen it up and to also play around with different maybe water drops. So let's see. And also the paint doesn't absorb. It stays on the surface. And I'm really liking that much better. I think for my next batch, for all of the text pages or old book pages, you can use clear gesso or any medium. You can use the gloss, you can use the matte. I use Liquitex. It's a good price and it's a fluid, so I would advise the fluid medium. And look at this, beautiful. So I've got a fair amount left, not a lot. I'm going to let that just sit. I'm going to put the lid on it, so when I come back, when I have some more time, I can add white. I'll look at my stash first, we'll take a look at it, and we'll see if we have enough lights, mediums, and darks. Before I begin creating with these papers, I like to pause. I spread them out side by side and simply notice. Along with these papers, to this week's papers, these are from last week, and they're rhythm papers, drops, all sorts of transparent and opaque papers. Seeing them all together helps me notice what keeps returning. So I look for colors, marks, and rhythms that naturally belong together before I sort them into quiet families. That's often where the thread begins, and it starts to show itself. If you've missed last week's video, I'd encourage you to watch it next. Together, these papers become the foundation for everything that follows in this water series. The link is in the description below. So this is one of the favorite parts of the process. When I have my papers done, they're dried, I flatten them with the book, and they're all together. And I can already see certain colors and marks beginning to repeat that I really love. And I don't need to invent the next idea. It's just going to come back. It's going to return. And I simply pay attention to that. That's what I mean by following a thread. Rather than searching for something new, I stay with one idea long enough to discover where it wants to lead. And right now, that is the element of water. If this video inspired you, I'd love to know, what kinds of collage papers do you enjoy making? Or what colors are calling your attention lately? If you'd like to continue this journey, be sure to subscribe because next time we'll begin following this thread using the papers we've created today. Until then, pause, notice, respond, and trust what's returning, one soulful layer at a time.